Welcome to the third edition of SportsCentral. I'm your host, Nick Detter, here with Austin Zellers and Clark Schoon over. Today we're going to run down the MLB playoffs, the Big 12's decision not to expand, and then finally give you a little bit of fantasy advice. And of course, we'll finish with everyone's favorite part of the show, the 2-minute drill with Evan Byers. We'll start with Clark and the MLB playoffs.
So you look at the MLB, you got to see that the Giants finally lost in an even year. So that conspiracy's gone. And the Cubs and the Dodgers are tied 1-1 in the NLCS. And the Indians lead the Blue Jays 3-0 in the ALCS, despite Trevor Bauer getting pulled in the first inning last night due to a bloody pinky.
Yeah, a little more in the playoffs. I really like the Indians this year. I think they've played pretty well. They've battled hard. They've come back from, they haven't been very good in the past. They've kind of been building a program.
That's a new year for them.
Yeah, they got Corey Kluber on the mound in Game 4. He's 18-9 on the season. And he's looked pretty good. He's played some good competition. He's looked really good. So I think they're going to get the win there. So I think it'll be an Indians in the playoffs. And on the other side, I think that the Dodgers really rode Kershaw pretty hard throughout this postseason so far, and I just don't think that's going to continue. I mean, he's a great pitcher, obviously, but you can't ride one guy. So I really think their little run's about to end against the Cubs.
I don't know how much you can pitch him in relief in these playoffs and not just wear his arm out, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, and the fact that if we do end up having an Indians and Cubs World Series, someone's going to win a title that hasn't won a title. I mean, the Indians haven't won a title in like 60 years, and the Cubs haven't won a title in over 100 years. I mean, that's one of the most well-known losing streaks or non-title streaks in sports. So it's exciting to see. I think everyone likes a little bit of parity. It's nice not to see the Yankees or the Red Sox or the Cardinals or the Giants win it, because it seems like in the last 10 years it's been one of those four about every single time.
Yeah, for sure.
Can't forget about those Royals.
No, the Royals, yes, the
Royals.
That's
Heck yeah.
No, and another thing that I think is going to benefit, if this happens, which I really think it will, the Cubs-Indians, I think that the Cubs are going to have a bit of an advantage because I think they're going to go a little deeper with the Dodgers. And I know that this is kind of back and forth depending on your opinions, but I really truly think that that long off break, like once the Indians sweep or maybe win it in 5, they're going to have 6-7 off days before they play their first World Series game, and those guys haven't done that all season. They've been playing games every night, and I just think that's kind of going to hurt them.
I'm just going to have to disagree with you there a little bit. I just think it's common sense. And the Indians' starters will be all rested, and that's really, the Indians are really rely on their starters. They had one of the best rotations in the MLB this year, and so I think the fact that they'll be able to go in the World Series with all their starters on full rest will be a big advantage, where the Cubs might have to not pitch their aces like Lester and Arrieta until games 3 and 4, which could be a negative effect in my opinion.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, it just depends on how you look
It
at
definitely
it.
depends. And I think it's definitely. I would agree with you on the pitching side, but as a hitter, and I know they're professionals and I know they do it for a living, but I just think that as a hitter, to play all those games, you're seeing live pitching all the time, then go 6 days of just BP and maybe like one round of live pitching is just not.
You can polish
not
up
good
anything
for you.
that you've been struggling with, in those days off.
Now to Big 12 expansion, or the lack of Big 12 expansion, as it turned out yesterday when the Big 12 announced that they will stick with 10 teams, eventually split up into divisions, and then have a title game in 2017, which a lot of people are thinking is probably not the wisest way to handle their current situation. I mean, obviously, Z, I know you have some strong opinions on this.
Yeah, I was just really upset because I really liked Houston. I really wanted them in the Big 12. I thought they were going to help us in a lot of ways, and also just the fact that splitting a 10-team conference it's just
into division.
You can't.
Well, they already play a round-robin schedule, and what's really could end up happening here is that you're going to have the Big 12 South is most likely going to be stronger than the Big 12 North because most of the good teams in the Big 12 are OU and then the schools in Texas. So when you split it up, so what could end up happening is you could have an 11-1 or 12-0 or 10-2 Big 12 South champion squaring off against like a 7-5 or an 8-4 Big 12 North champion, and if that Big 12 North champion won the game, and probably the Big 12 South team would already have beaten them, that's going to hurt their chances to make the playoffs. And I mean, the claim was this would help the Big 12 make the playoff, and it's really, and it's.
The one thing that is kind of nice about that Big 12 North, though, is it gives our Kansas Jayhawks
a
chance to
Kansas Jayhawks
even wind up with
in
something.
2020 with an 8-4 record could sneak into the Big 12 championship game. Which
You
You never know.
Yeah, but I'm pretty upset about that whole thing. I don't think they handled that the right way, but it's not my job to make those decisions. So, roll with it.
I just think as a Big 12 fan, I think there's a really realistic chance that in 2024, that's when the Big 12's current media deal ends with ESPN, that you could see Texas or OU Bolton for the SEC or the Pac-12 because they're just...
They've already threatened to do that multiple times.
And there's just not a lot of stuff, especially as other conferences. I mean, Pac-12's at 12, the SEC's at 14, the ACC's at like 15, the Big 10's at 14. I mean, we're just smaller than all the other conferences, and I think it's more likely than not that those other conferences are going to keep looking to expand, and I think the Big 12 is going to be kind of left behind.
Yep.
Which, if you're a K-State fan, that's something to worry about. Because I know all you Cats fans love your Cats, but the fact of the matter is that what matters in this is money, and the Manhattan TV market and the Western Kansas TV market isn't necessarily a very attractive thing to a conference like the Pac-12 or the Big 10. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with some of the smaller markets in the Big 12 if the Big 12 was to end up breaking up.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens. And I mean, obviously, if you break up a 10-team conference, which are all Power 5 teams, they're going to want in the other Power 5 conferences, making mega conferences, which you can't have. So some of those teams, like possible K-State or even maybe an Iowa State, are going to wind up in conferences like the American.
Or Texas Tech, there's like a couple schools in the Big 12 that just don't really bring in the revenue to be a good fit in the Pac-12 or the Big 10 or the ACC, wherever you want to go.
Yeah.
We did talk about, though, it is kind of fun to speculate if KU ended up in the ACC someday.
I thought that'd be pretty cool. You get some interesting basketball matchups with Duke and Kansas.
I don't know about football, though.
Well,
honestly,
that's a whole other story.
We're not weakest of the.
We can worry about that when it gets there.
Yeah, we gotta.
Football's kind of week by week.
Week by week. Okay, so now we're going to give you a little bit of a recap and some advice as we're about close to halfway through the fantasy regular season, as most teams just go up to about week 13 or 14 mostly.
I would agree, and to anyone who knows me, they know I have some of the greatest fantasy football teams that have ever came out of the entire state of Kansas.
The entire state of Kansas.
Even
though
that
I'm in a league with Zellers. I actually play Zellers.
Zellers will win the game.
Zellers is 3-3 in the league that I'm in. So
that's good for me, actually.
That's
Through week 6, if we look at some leaders in fantasy football points, we've got Antonio Brown with 75 points, David Johnson, who apparently can't be stopped, with 125 points, and Matt Ryan at QB with 140 points.
I know. Matt Ryan, I like him a lot, but he's got a great target to throw to. He's racking up those
couple weeks
yards
back,
yards after catch with Julio.
Putting up
big
those
numbers
yards every week.
But I really think you got to talk about Matt Ryan a little bit, because I think Matt Ryan was probably like a late round 9th or 10th, even later than that draft pick for a lot of people. And he's done really well. And he's currently in ESPN leagues, Matt Ryan has 140 points, and the next closest QB is Ben Roethlisberger with 119. So that's
who went out this year.
He's out.
Went out last week, so he's only going to increase his.
Well, I think that's really been the story of the fantasy season, is it's kind of surprise guys and then lack of production from some of the better guys. Like Aaron Rodgers was a high pick in a lot of people's leagues, and he's like the 12th quarterback. And then you look at the running backs. David Johnson, a lot of people saw that coming.
They knew he was going to be.
Yeah, but with the running backs, it's been most the young guys is what's been.
Obviously Adrian Peterson's out. Jamal Charles, who I know he was kind of an iffy pick for a lot of guys in their leagues, because I know Jamal, they knew he was going to be back week 5, week 6, around there. He finally comes back, so people took him because they knew he had potential, and all of a sudden Spencer Ware out of nowhere honestly probably took his starting job. They're going to be for sure splitting carries. But I think right now Spencer Ware's got most of the workload in Kansas City. So. Well,
I almost feel it's kind of like a passing of the guard between the running backs of the last 4 or 5 years that have really been dominant, and then this young. You look at the top 5 fantasy running back scores. 3 of the top 5 are either rookies or second-year players. So I definitely feel like it's just a kind of a shift in who the main fantasy running backs will be going forward, and the main running backs in the entire league.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If we take a shift in the NFL and we look at my boys out of Dallas, you got to look at Dak Prescott in his hot start with close to 1,500 yards. He's got 7 touchdowns, a 70% completion percentage, and only 1 interception that he got this week. Are they going to start Tony when he's healthy, or are they going to stick with Dak here?
From Jerry Jones' perspective, Tony Romo is getting the start when he gets back. I can guarantee it.
I don't know. The whole concept they keep saying is this is Tony's team, but Dak's team is a playoff team.
Well, I'll tell you, Tony's team is an 8-8 team that gets mediocre. Gets mediocre picks and doesn't make the playoffs.
In the last 6 starts, in both of their last 6 starts, they're both 5-1, and you gotta look. Tony's never played with a team as good as the Cowboys this year, and that's who Dak's playing with. And although he looks so hot, you gotta question what Tony could do with him.
But the thing is I feel like Tony, regardless of if you think he's better or not this year, is that down. I mean, Tony's got, what do you think, 2 or 3 more years in the league at most.
I would say
He's
3
got
max.
a lot of injuries, so I think it might make sense to stick with Dak. I mean, just for the future of your franchise. This guy is probably going to be your franchise quarterback. He's shown he has the ability to be your franchise guy. So I don't know why you would, especially since he's been successful, why you would go away from a guy who's had success who also could be the future of your franchise. That's just the way I feel about it.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, but I know for 100% sure.
Oh, I
Tony
think
Romo's
you're
getting
probably
started
right.
in
You're probably
Dallas.
right that he will. I just don't
Unfortunately,
think that he should.
fortunately, and I mean, honestly, I think a lot of Dallas fans, I've heard a lot of Dak stuff, but I mean, Tony's, I mean, I hate to say it, but he still is somewhat their guy in Dallas.
Yeah.
So I think I don't think a lot of Dallas fans are ready to give up on him yet, so.
What do you think next year? Do you think they're going to try to either look to trade Dak or Tony, or do you think we'll continue to have this controversy until Tony retires?
I don't know. I think this might push Tony a little bit towards retirement.
I think one luxury here is that they don't have to rush Tony back. They can keep going with Dak. They can see how he keeps doing. And I mean, if he starts performing a little worse, you can say, okay, Tony, we need you back. But I mean, there's no rush here.
Well, and that's maybe one of the problems with Tony Romo in the past is that he's tried to rush back from injuries because they really haven't had a suitable other option at backup quarterback.
And then he gets
re-injured. So we could. It'll be interesting to see.
We'll see what
happens in the next few weeks here.
Now to the 2-minute drill with Evan Byers.
Hi, I'm Evan Byers, host of the 2-minute drill, and my 2 minutes starts now. So we're going to start out with Arkansas Razorbacks versus Auburn. Obviously, Arkansas is ranked 17, Auburn 21. I think this is a great game. Auburn is projected a big win, but I actually disagree. I think Arkansas is taking the dub. Okay, their quarterback is great, 18 touchdowns, but you can't forget about the 6 picks. However, White for Auburn, he's thrown 6 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. So they're both throwing a 3 to 1 ratio of touchdowns to interceptions. So I really think that this is going to be a big game, but I think Arkansas is going to pull out the dub, which is contrary to what most people think. Big wins over Mississippi and I guess they got killed by Texas A&M, but Arkansas, I think that they're winning this game. Okay, so that brings us now to the NFL. In the NFL, I think my game of the week is Arizona-Seattle. Arizona's 3-3, Seattle's 4-1. This is a big game for both teams. Arizona's good, but so is Seattle. Seattle's D has been a little shaky lately. I do have them on my fantasy team, underperforming, in my opinion. Arizona, David Johnson, also on my fantasy team. He's a god at the game. I love him. I think Arizona's winning this game, and I think it's going to be a turning point for their season. That brings us to hockey. Okay, season's new. Pittsburgh Penguins coming off a Stanley Cup. They cannot be stopped. Okay, Phil Kessel is a beast. He's already scored 2 goals this season, and I think Pittsburgh has a great chance at another victory. But you cannot forget about Austin. I forgot his last name. He scored 4 goals in 1 game. That is just ridiculous. I think he's a future hockey star.
Okay, we're back. I hope you were able to make it through the 2-minute drill with Evan Byers. I think we all agreed that was at the best a D-, more likely like an F. What do you got?
All I'm going to say is Evan Byers never should be allowed to talk about hockey again.
You know what? I give their fantasy advice. I give that an F-.
Well, this isn't your time to
it's
talk.
It's a 0.
I think you need to stop.
You guys are bad at fantasy.
What are you?
Coming from the guy who doesn't know the last name of the quarterback.
You're talking about the Arkansas game. Oh, yeah, the quarterback.
3-to-1
ratio.
Well, I can tell you this, he threw 18 touchdowns and 6 picks.
Good. And you did 18 divided by 6. I'm proud of you, Byers.
All Evan Byers knows about hockey is the Pittsburgh Penguins and a couple players. So if he ever talks about hockey again, you guys might as well
That's not
stop
true.
listening.
I know
to
all
podcasts,
about like
'cause-
Steven Stamkos, Patrick Kane.
Wow, he knows
obviously
3 of the best players. in
Lundqvist.
hockey.
I know a
What's
lot
his
about
first
hockey.
name? What's
Name all
Lundqvist's
your
first
name.
name?
Henrik.
Yeah, there you go. Man, you actually knew the guy's name this time. You didn't know the other
All I'm
guy's
saying,
name.
the Penguins are a deadly team. They're going to win another cup.
Great.
Thank you,
Painters,
Evan.
guys.
Thank you for that. Thank you for the
comments.
insight.
But Austin is the future of hockey, I think.
Austin who?
What? Yeah. What?
Austin.
Great, good insight, Byers.
Austin Zellers, you heard it here first. Austin
you heard it
Zellers
here.
is the future of hockey. Straight from the horse's mouth.
All right.
Are you calling me a horse?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, that's gonna conclude our third edition of Sports
I'm sorry
Central.
you have to listen to him talk.